shall engage in opportunities to grow in a safe environment through multiple approaches to learning.
In Taylor ISD, we believe families are partners who will be informed and supported in the educational process to help students discover their unique potential.
In Taylor ISD, we believe the superintendent and the district leaders are forward-thinking, strategic, and accessible partners to our community that empower staff to help students achieve their unique potential.
In Taylor ISD, we believe the Board of Trustees is a collaborative team anchored in tradition with a vision towards the future, connection to the community, inspiring exceptional workplaces, and excellence in student
In Taylor ISD, we believe our accessible campus leaders foster community relationships and demonstrate effective communication, servant leadership, and instructional leadership to guide faculty and staff towards our vision.
Our mission: inspire, equip, and empower every student to achieve their unique potential with a vision of intentionally empowering the whole child. Thank you, trustees. Next on the agenda is one of my favorite when we get down to student recognition, and it's the recognition. Dr. Pettiville.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. First, it is Principal Appreciation Month here in this month of October. So we do want to take a minute to recognize our principals as well.
At this time, I'd like for our 6 principals to come forward. We're proud of our principals and all that they do for our students and our community, and we'd like to recognize them this month of October. So if you please give our principals a big hand.
Thank you. That's Thursday. We have sandwiches for them on Thursday.
As they're making their way to their seats, we have Andy Bashi, who's the principal at T.H. Johnson, Erica Elizondo, who is the principal at Legacy, our early college high school, Felicia Gibson, which is the principal of Naomi Posman Elementary, Carrie Pierce, who's the principal of Main Street Intermediate, Stephen Vigil, our Taylor Middle School principal, and Matthew Womble, who's the Taylor High School principal. So Taylor ISD is very lucky to have you, you all as principals. Next up, we are going to recognize our some high school students who have had an outstanding performance either on their PSAT, PSA 10, and our AP exams throughout their high school year. We'd like to first honor Elaine Shervinka. Oh, sorry.
Trustees, if you can join me in front of the dais for this recognition.
All right, first up is Elaine Shervinka. Next, we have Rebecca Courtney. Bethany Robles. Jaden Rush. Zane Talavera. Luke Thompson. Ava White. Also not able to be with us, who also received an honor, were Caitlin Baum, Yahir Cancel, Serena McIntyre, Miguel Ruiz, Rose Simmons, and Brennan Zephyr. All right, next we are going to honor our students of the month, and we are going to start with Legacy Early College High School. So when we call your name or names from each school, please come to the front just like other students did. From Legacy Early College High School, we have Abel Grimaldo and Soraya Rogers.
So my name's Jay Reed, and I'm doing a leadership class at the high school, and this is actually our first time to recognize Student of the Month, and this was kind of the project that one of my classes, my leadership class, did, and their idea was to not only recognize the students, but also get some sponsors from the community involved to reward those students, and also recognize all that were nominated. And so one of the things that we've done is given a little baggie of treats, goodies to all those that were nominated, just to recognize those that are doing what they're supposed to and above and beyond that. And so our first winners of this award, first up we have Estrella de la Torre. And then we also have Ryan Valdez. I also wanted to mention that we had over 120 students nominated by teachers throughout the school, and so I was just overwhelmed. Sometimes you can kind of lose track dealing with some of the challenging students, and you lose track of those students that are doing a really good job. And so I was really encouraged by those students, and thankful that we do have some awesome students at Taylor High School.
Next up, we have Christina Argami and Colton Bittner from Taylor Middle School. From Main Street Intermediate, we have Gilbert Correa. All right, from Naomi Posman Elementary, we have Sian Campisi. Miguel Angel Rios Alamanza. All right, and from T.H. Johnson, we have Paxton Metz. All right, congratulations to our students of the month. Everybody would come back, and we're going to take a group picture, please.
Parents, before we go on to public comments, we're going to take a moment to pause just in case you want to make sure your child is getting home for a restful night before school tomorrow.
All right. Next on the agenda is public comments, and I do believe we have a public comment. So members of the public who completed a public comment card are invited to speak at this time. When I call your name, please step up to the podium and state your name and the topic you would like to discuss. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Comments pertaining to district personnel or individual students are not permitted. Please recognize that under the Texas Opens Meetings Act, the board may not take any action on any matter not listed on the public notice for this meeting. Board members will not be able to answer any questions or respond to situations directly, but may request that the district's administration follow up with you at a later date. So we do have public comments, and I'd like to ask Vicki Thornton and Ms. Werner to step up to the podium. Oh, that's, okay, I'm just going by the names on there. That's fine. And discussion items presenting 7 frame national mottos in God We Trust at Taylor ISD. You have 3 minutes, and I don't mean to be rude, but if I did it for you, I got to do it for everybody. So if I cut you off at 3 minutes, don't be.
Better be about a minute and a half.
All right, as soon as you begin, I'll start.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Padaville and President Ortiz and board members for the opportunity to present our framed national motto, In God We Trust, to Taylor ISD. History reveals this motto has been prominent in our nation from the 1700s to present day. President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the national motto into law on July 30th, 1956. In 2006, the 50th anniversary of In God We Trust becoming our national motto, the U.S. Senate reaffirmed this motto, and in 2011, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a similar resolution. Presidents stating their support for our national motto include President Truman, President Kennedy, President Reagan, President George H.W. Bush, and President Trump. On June 14th, 2021, Governor Abbott signed Senate Bill 797, allowing our national motto to be placed on display in a conspicuous place in each building of the school. On behalf of Moms for Liberty, Williamson County Chapter, it is our honor and privilege to present 7 framed national mottos, In God We Trust, to Taylor ISD. And would the principals please come forward to receive your frame? Thank you.
30 seconds to spare. All right, next on the agenda is the campus spotlight for T.H. Johnson Elementary.
Mr. Ortiz, while Mr. Bashy is loading up here, I just want to tell you, we're really proud of the work our principals are doing in regards to Goal 1, excellence in academic outcomes. And at T.H. Johnson, we know that the staff, led by administration, but also in partnership with Ms. Michelle Holscher, are doing a lot to improve literacy outcomes when it comes to our pre-K, kinder, and first grade learners. So we really appreciate the three of you being here today. We know what a long day you put in at T.H. Johnson, and we're just really proud to showcase the work you're doing. Is the Apple TV on?
I'm on CO Boardroom TV. That's not it.
There we go.
Thank you for inviting us to come up and present about our wonderful school. We love Johnson. We want to, whoops, let me go back here, I apologize. Wanted to take a second and look at, this is the close of the first weeks. We just celebrated the end of the first 9 weeks, which is just the quarter of the year. We are excited to come up here and share with you kind of what we're doing as a school. Want the goal of this to kind of like to present, here's some things that make us special. Here's what T.H. Johnson does. Here's what we do well. Here's what makes us us. We kind of want to dig into some data then, and to look just briefly at the kind of data that the teachers are looking at, how they are making decisions in the classroom to meet the needs of the students that we're seeing every single day, and then kind of like the plan for the future. Sound good? Who are we? We are T.H. Johnson's Taylor's Early Childhood Campus. We have 558 3 to 7-year-olds. In East, we have 26 students. Pre-K 3, we have 39. We are at 40 as our capacity. We are almost there. Pre-K 4, we have 112. Kindergarten 192, and first 189 students. Our vision is to provide a nurturing, caring environment where children are eager to come to school. We want our students to be safe, and we want all of our little ducks to grow and learn every single day. We're going to do this by laying a strong academic foundation. We make safety a top priority, and we intentionally meet the social-emotional needs of our early childhood learners. When you think about our district vision and mission, this is the how behind how we do this.
our weekly super ducks, or our super ducklings. So each week, a teacher nominates one student, and they come to the office. On Fridays, they receive a medal. We talk about how we've seen them being safe, kind, and responsible on campus, our three school rules. And then they get their picture taken. And that's a big thing for our kids at this age, to be recognized for those positive behaviors. Another thing that our teachers are implementing is duck bucks. So our kids can receive duck bucks in the classroom, and as you can see, we have 2 students that are getting to cash in those duck bucks for rewards. And then we have our golden ducks at lunch. So we have this little, you can see the teachers' names, and that's posted in the cafeteria. And so the kids can earn a golden duck as a class at lunch, and then once they've received 3 golden ducks, they get extra recess and popsicle.
A little bit more fun than no talking, silent lunch, that kind of thing. Free Choice Centers is also, Free Choice Centers is kind of what we do as a campus well. It's all of the social emotional learning, all of the social piece of this that gets to get played out every single day.
It kind of pulls a lot of the things that we do together into one. It's social emotional learning, but it's also academics. And for somebody that would walk into T.H. Johnson and not have an early childhood background, they might think, oh, they're just playing, but it's so much more than that. When you see Free Choice Centers happening in our classrooms, they are practicing their social skills. They're practicing self-regulation. They're practicing making choices for themselves, setting a goal and attaining that goal. A lot of times you can see in these slides, there's literacy and math built into the centers. And in one of the slides, it's a movie theater, and they're practicing paying for an item at the concession stand. So a lot of things are built into the centers, even though it looks like they're just playing. They are playing, but they're learning a lot built into that play, and the students don't even realize it.
And I want to add, this is also a precursor to a lot of that beginning oral language, and so they're beginning to have those conversations and build that early language that leads into the foundational like early literacy skills.
Some special events and community connections.
So one thing that I think we do really well at T.H. Johnson is also building community and like bringing in our families, because that's so important for our little ducks, that we're fostering that community and family connection within the school. And so multiple ways that we do that is through our Hispanic Heritage Month and celebrating that. We know that we have a very large Hispanic community, and so I feel like our bilingual teachers do a really good job of celebrating that and teaching our kids to be proud of their culture. We have community helpers come in. We had our firefighters this last week. And then just through different learning field trips and providing those experiences that maybe our kids wouldn't get otherwise. We also have multiple like events throughout the year, like our math and science night and our winter program, where families are encouraged on campus and be involved in different activities with their kids. We have our canned food drive that we do. That's getting ready to kick off for the Thanksgiving season, and then our bubble run that will also be next month.
Last year we gathered over 1,400 cans for the Shepherd's Heart. It was a lot of fun.
One huge thing for this year is we will be celebrating the 40th anniversary of our campus. And so that will be celebrated in the near future as we just look at the rich culture, or the rich history that comes with our campus and Mr. T.H.
We invited the high school and you guys can come over and celebrate. This will be in the springtime, so it's coming. This year, we had to cancel it last year with a spike in COVID, so we put it off. So it'll be Mr. T.H. Johnson's 122nd birthday.
Mm.
Is that right? All right, so now I get to talk about data just a little bit. And so I wanted to kind of dig in. Just this slide gives us a little bit of an overview, because I want to show you, it's hard to talk about data a little bit at an early childhood campus. it, and then we're going to kind of walk through some more of like what that looks like in the classroom. So you can see that we collect real specific data working with students with things like with uppercase letters and lowercase letters. So we're being very specific with it. We also collect data from we have two main measures that we use for like a universal screener. We have our M-class data, and then we also have our Renaissance data. And Renaissance data is something we're collecting across the district. Take a look at this slide with me, because this shows that bird's eye view. And what does this show? It shows a lot of red. It shows a lot of things so this isn't showing any specifics at this point. This is showing where students are. But when I look at, and there's a little bit on here that can be deceiving. The top two teachers have a lot of red, but those are students that are in bilingual classes. This is the first time they've ever been tested in English, and these are their English scores. So they have a little bit more ways to go. Now, what can we do with this data when we drill it down to teacher level and then the student level? Well, when I take it and I focus on a classroom, I can see that I have students that are well below benchmark. They're not just red anymore. I can see where they're low. I can see that I have phonemic awareness deficits in this classroom and letter sound deficits. I can see that I have students with a lot of strengths in this classroom that need to be pushed even farther. I can go down one more level here, and I can see with clarity, with color-coded clarity, which students need assistance in what area. We can see areas of deficits for certain in letter names, phonemic awareness. I have one student, the second one down, he's green across the board except for phonemic awareness. That's his one area. That should be the next thing that teacher focuses on. If I drill it down even farther, I'm taking a look at, I want to take a look at this one and look at the headings at the top. I want to look at things like letter names, phonemic awareness, letter sounds, decoding, word reading, reading accuracy, reading fluency, oral language. These are the things that we focus on, that we teach, that we are these are the areas of instruction every single day that we're working on in the classroom. Teachers are able. Our M-class data shows. Our M-class data, the one I was just showing you, shows that our greatest area of learning needs and deficits are in letter names and sounds, phonemic awareness, and decoding and word reading. The Renaissance data shows basically the same thing: phonological awareness, knowledge of phonics, vocabulary, oral language, and comprehension. So what's our response? Let me take you through that. We're going to do some pictures and have a little more fun with that part. But it's things like Foundations, which is our phonics program. We're explicitly teaching phonics every day. We use a program called Heggerty to explicitly teach phonemic awareness. We have small group instruction in reading, which also includes these same reading skills plus comprehension. What tools are there for teachers? When they click on that top button that says instruction, the program groups students for them and gives them access to activities that they can pull for students. They can pull with students. We also have, again, this is a tool for instruction that we send home. This data is also communicated to parents as we send this home. As we invite parents to come up for parent conferences, we also share this data with them. The Renaissance data shows kind of the same thing. This is that bird's eye view, looking at about 35% of students need urgent intervention. This is how we know what we need to do next. Because then we can take that information and drill down into a list of students and a list of skills. We can take a specific student, look at where he's testing, and where the test projects he's going to go next. We can see with the little lightning bolts there, the foundational skills, the lightning bolts are the important ones, the skills that he needs next. What are we supposed to focus on to allow this child to succeed in this classroom this year? Again, kind of like zooming back out from this a little bit, we can see the number of different lists of skills that we're looking at. And if a teacher is looking at several pages of lists of skills, they're able to take those skills, group them together, and pull groups of students to work on those skills. You see the power behind that? Work we're doing in our professional learning communities is taking our Renaissance data, our M-class data, our report card data, and pulling it together to figure out what to do provided a lot of background for a lot of teachers. It brought a lot of good learning to the forefront of what needs to be happening in the classroom. It ties to our curriculum and also to our to the Taylor Aligned curriculum and also to our literacy framework, which has been a focus at our campus this year. We have foundational things in place at T.H. Johnson. We have phonics instruction and phonemic awareness instruction. We are working with reading and math in small groups, which is where the magic happens. And now we talk about instruction. Michelle, can you talk a little bit here? There it is.
So I just visited, this is Miss Gola's pre-K class, and I got to see all four of her like rotations in small groups. And you can see on the far left, this is one of her higher groups. And so they're going through and this is one of her lower groups. They're going through and they're distinguishing between straight lines and curved lines to identify the letters. So that's just one skill of being able to identify those letters. Then in the middle group, that far group is doing letters and number sort. So at this age, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion between letters and numbers. Yes. So they're able to go in and sort the letters and the numbers. And then the middle group, that's the one that they're looking at curves and straight lines in letters. Then the far right group is actually building their name. So they're now identifying those letters and recognizing the letters within their name. And at one point in time, she had them switch names, so then they were building each other's names.
Are you getting the idea that instruction at T.H. Johnson is personalized to the student? That's one of the things I want you to understand from this, is that our data is not broad TEKS so much, or broad standards that we're looking at this point, because I can list those for you. But really what I wanted to leave you with was the idea that we seek to understand students at the individual level and meet that child's needs. Does that make sense? Have we made that point? I hope we have. And then we have some really neat things to show you here too. Like, take a look at the picture on the left. These students, I think this was the third week of school. These are our first graders. They're sitting there, they're doing research on their iPad, using a nonfiction book. They're focusing on writing complete sentences, and they're pulling out facts from that nonfiction text. Some more on the right-hand side, we're doing phonics on the right. We have things like there's a shared reading going on in the top right-hand corner, where the students and the teacher are interacting with a text that's accessible to the teacher, and those students are hooked. Everybody's eyes are on that teacher and that text. At T.H. Johnson, there's phonemic awareness. I keep bringing that one up. That's what Miss Ariano's doing in that bottom one. She is teaching that sound manipulation, and it's a practice, it's rote, it's fun. She's making it exciting, and it's engaging. Miss Sandoval up at the top up there, she's breaking words into syllables, which is another one of those phonological awareness skills. At T.H. Johnson, what we want to do is understand each student at their level, hold small groups, which is where the magic happens for learning to read and also to do math, because we do math too. But I didn't want to be 20 minutes again. Sorry about that for last year. If y'all were here last year. And then so my goal as principal with this team here is to see our little ducks learn and grow every day as much as possible. Thank y'all for your time.
Any questions or comments?
I have one question. So when you do your assessments and the data, and you as an example, those kids that are, say, in the bottom third in the table you showed. Is there any kind of analysis of those kids to see if there's something different you should be doing at the grade below so that they would come in better, possibly better prepared, and how you would, where you would adjust another grade below them so that they come in better prepared?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I'm actually really grateful for being able to have first grade on this campus, because we've seen in the first 3 weeks, we saw some things. Wow, we could make these changes in kindergarten that would improve the first students in first grade. Last year, we ended the year doing that with pre-K and kinder. We call them a vertical PLC, where we met together to talk about end-of-year standards for one group and beginning of year for the next group, so that we could tie those together and meet those needs like that.
Thank you.
Bridge the gap. Yes, ma'am.
Johnny, you had my middle son, which I just want to applaud y'all. He's now an 8th grader, and your name in our house is still a household name. What did Miss Holter say? You know, like, so, just the foundation of education, it starts so much with y'all. I know, like, you guys know the 2 that y'all saw come through T.H. Johnson, and they're still carrying lessons that they picked up from. So I really appreciate it.
Yes, Anita.
Piggyback on what you're laying the foundation for the rest of it. You're making it fun, you're holding it accountable, and take trust with the parents. Y'all are getting the first go around, and what y'all are instilling in students will hopefully follow through the same. You have a big job.
It is a job, and that we all look forward to doing it today.
Has anybody ever wanted to know the difference between holding a job and calling? Go step inside the phone and people used to tell me all the time, oh, they're the high school students. Oh, no, I'd be scared. Those numbers you called out of how many you have in.
But can I just brag on our teachers just from seeing those pictures? So you think about it. Look at how engaged those students are for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. There's so much engagement there.
Well, I like how y'all said, basically customize the learning to each individual student. I like that.
You know, should have had a rug.
When a teacher that's healthy, and they're working in that one-on-one and in that small group, that's where the power is.
Outstanding.
Mr. Bashu, just, before you depart from the mic, I just want to tell you, just really proud of your team and the work you're doing. We all know T.H. Johnson is a really special school, but that doesn't happen on accident. I loved in this presentation how you just shared so many examples of the culture and how student life is there. And then that was the foundation for academics. Because once kids feel a sense of belonging and family and happiness and community in their school, well, then some real learning can take place. So thank you for everything you're doing.
All right. Excuse me. That brings us to reports to the Board of Trustees. Superintendent's update. Dr. Patterson.
Mr. Ortiz, I wanted to give Ms. Rochelle Fink and Ms. Rodriguez, and I see Ms. Hortenstein is here as well, to just talk about college career military readiness as a strategy towards improving learning in our schools, and real proud of the work that was taking place in that is taking place in the school district. So wanted to give you an opportunity just to peel back the covers on what does this mean and what are we doing as a district, and give you the opportunity to ask questions as well. Ms. Fink.
I am really glad Christy is here because today we're going to talk about our strategy in advancing college career and military readiness across the district. And I'm really glad that Mr. Bashy and his team were able to present before me because they really are the fundamental start to a lot of what you're going to see. Today we're going to talk about kind of this idea that it's not just in the role of the counselor. It's not just something we talk about when a kid is a sophomore or a senior in high school, This truly starts from the minute a student enters Taylor ISD and continues all the way through that conversation. We really have three main approaches to increasing college and career readiness across our district. And it is a comprehensive approach, like we said, from K to 12 or pre-K if they are in our pre-K center. For college and career readiness, social emotional development, many of the same skills that Mr. Bashy and his team just talked about, advocacy, empathy, tie into these very skills. If I cannot advocate for myself, do I have the skills that I need in these same capacities? So it continues all the way through our careers, as well as that academic development of our needs, academic needs of our students and our families. What I hope you will see is that we are taking intentional approaches to not just talk to our students, but to also bring parents into this conversation and to bring our community at large into what's happening in our schools. So we're really going to focus on three main key points. Are students academically ready through the idea of the Texas Success Initiative and a test that we will talk through? What does college matriculation look like for them? Are they ready to go to college if they so choose? That may not be their path, and if it's not, what does career ready look like for them? Can we set them up for success before they even walk out the door and be able to walk straight into a high-paying, high-wage career? In doing so, we are really looking at this and conversation. When we talk about improving CCMR outcomes or college and career military readiness outcomes, you will hear us talk about TSI ready or enrolling in a college or having that industry-based certification. This year, we're also looking at military readiness. However, for us in our strategy, we are looking at and. We want every student to leave Taylor High School or Legacy Early College High School academically prepared, with that TSI being what we call TSI ready, and able to either enroll in a college or university if that's their choice, or have an IBC, so they have both in their back pocket. At the end of the day, for us as an institution, that also adds extra what we call CCMR bonus outcomes to our bottom dollar. We get funds back for making that happen. And it's just best practice, right? We want kids to be academically ready and take whatever that next step looks like for them. And so we really work hand in hand with our teaching and learning department, our school counselors, and our administrators to make sure we're able to make this happen. In TSI, you will see in each of these some key strategies that we are working through, as well as some goals we have set for ourselves this year. This year, our goal is that 90% of our class of 2023 will meet TSI criteria, meaning that they will be ready, quote unquote, in math and in English by a cut score that they have offered for us. We also have said that 75% of our junior class will meet TSI criteria by the end of the year. Now, in having really strategic conversations with our high school administrators and counselors, what we would like to see happen is that right now we are working on both seniors and juniors, right? We are kind of moving in both of those targets. If we are able to set ourselves up for success this year, by the time students enter their senior year, they will be considered college and career ready. So as opposed to really working on our seniors and our juniors at the same time, we're kind of going to do double work this year so that next year we can get ahead of it and make sure that we're not dealing with a lot of kids their senior year that aren't CCMR ready. But it's just a little bit of kids that we've got to play catch up with their senior year, but we're really focusing on the bulk of our work at our juniors. And we do that through intentional TSI prep and testing. We have been granted an opportunity through the Rural Accelerator Grant, which is a 2-year program to help us create strategic planning around our TSI instruction, academically, making sure our kids are academically ready, working hand in hand with our teaching and learning and our instructional specialists, both at the middle school and the high school, so that this isn't just one thing they take. It's just not just a test that they take, and we don't talk about it ever again, right? It's not like Bruno. We're continually having these conversations. We're continually working through, what does this look like for our kids? Can we have academic conversations surrounding what does TSI look like for our kids? But it's also reviewing the content and the data in PLCs so that teachers are aware. We talk about SAT in high schools all the time. They understand what that looks like. When we talk about TSI, some teachers are left scratching their head because it is a relatively new conversation. So it's making sure they are getting that same understanding as our kids as well. And then also that idea of increasing overall awareness in our larger community. Again, if you ask a parent about PSAT or SAT, they know exactly what you're talking about, or they've got a way that they can find it pretty quickly. TSI is one of those areas that a lot of our parents are asking, you have to go take this test. What does that look like? How do I help you? How do I help you be successful? And so making sure our parents and students feel equipped to make this happen. One of the biggest things that we are working with Mr. Womble and his team this year is intentionally planning instruction into our junior year so that all students will test at times that are appropriate in the curriculum. So for example, you'll see up here, Algebra 2 and honors classes will take TSI math at the end of Algebra 2 because that's where the majority of the curriculum is. So it's like if I was having you take a test on welding and you had an opportunity to prep, I'm going to test you right after you teach that content, as opposed to waiting 3 months, not really sure if the content is going to stick, and then giving you an opportunity to come back. So we're being really intentional about where testing opportunities are placed. Same thing is true for our college strategy. We are looking at opportunities, and Christy has been really, really intentional on setting in some FAFSA workshops where parents and students can sit side by side and have advisors from Temple College or advisors from TSTC answer questions. Answer that question, why do I have to fill out this paperwork? Or what's the benefit for me if I know my parents say I've got to figure out a way to pay for college? What is available out there? What are those doors that I can open for myself? But also that strong comprehensive college and career advising. We are working hand in hand with counselors to increase the capacity for advising at Taylor High School. It is not just something that the 4 high school counselors own in their own little silo. It is a conversation across all of our campus. It is a conversation across every teacher, across every administrator, across myself going to advise as well. So we're really making sure all of us are together to figure out what's happening. And then also our career strategy. So this is an opportunity for us to look at how are all of our kids earning an IBC? How are all of our kids that are in an opportunity walking away with a certificate at a level 1 or level 2 certificate that they can leave high school and go straight into a IBC, or they can go straight into a high-paying, high-wage career. And the way that we make this all happen, Christy has branded this the brain, but we have every single student at Taylor High School currently housed on this spreadsheet, and we can very quickly see Rochelle Fink, what is her post-secondary plan? Has she filled out the waiver? Have we looked at every single piece of CCMR outcomes to see where am I at? Because if I don't intentionally track, just like we talked about all of that academic data, it's really easy for me as a student to get lost in the cracks. It's really hard to get lost in the cracks when you see red, or you see yellow, or you see orange. But also, it means we are having intentional conversations with every single senior and making a plan to help them achieve their unique potential. Just last Wednesday, the whole high school came together to do the 2nd annual testing day. And so what that looked like was 200 seniors tested in TSI. We now have a plan for which students are in need of intervention, which students are academically ready, and which students maybe we need to have another conversation about what does this look like. At the same time, our juniors and sophomores both took the PSAT. So every single junior, every single sophomore in the high school took that exam, giving them an opportunity and giving us an opportunity to truly look at what does their AP potential look like, what does dual credit look like for them, what does their P-TECH opportunity look like for them. So it's really giving us information to then advise kids and families on what does this need to look like. And then finally, every single freshman went through much of that same social emotional learning that you heard from Mr. Bashie, although developmentally appropriate. We did things like social media wellness. I don't know a high school student that does not need conversations about how to use social media to their advantage. And so that was a big conversation, as well as police officer interaction. And so we are constantly in this spreadsheet. I think Christy has it open every minute of every day. I am in there probably every other day, just looking at where we at so that we can make best opportunities and best plans for where we're headed. And finally, I'll leave you with this graphic. Previously, Christy and I had the opportunity to come and step into these positions at the exact same time. And we found that while great things were happening, it felt like random acts of advising. We had lots of different things happening in lots of different places, and we're really moving towards this idea that we have aligned systemic systems to help more kids be more successful for whatever they choose to come their way. At the end of the day, if our number one goal is to equip, inspire, and empower every student to achieve their unique potential, we do it through systems and aligned processes to make that happen.
Ms. Fink, could you go back one slide, please?
Yes, sir.
So to summarize, help me, if I were a parent just walking into Taylor High School, how would you summarize, what are the ways my kid can be considered college, career, or military readiness in the ways you track here at Taylor High School?
Yes. So in order for them to be considered or to be college and career ready, they have to meet a cut score in both reading and math on TSI, so a test that they would take at the end of their sophomore year, or hit a cut score on their SAT in both reading and math, or earn an industry-based certification, or if they are a special education student, meet certain criteria in their IEP, or this year we are looking at, and the state is allowing us to increase military enrollment as an option as well. And so those are the big ones that we look at.
Thank you, Ms. Finken. Is there any relation between all this data you're collecting and state accountability?
Yes, so that's a great question. When we look at Domain 2, which is part of our outcomes for each individual campus, at the secondary, middle, or high school, and both of our high schools, this is a third of their domain score. So for right now, last year, Taylor High School earned, I want to say 65 points for their, every student has the ability to earn 1 point. So we have the ability in a class of 104 students to earn 104 points. And so our goal is that every single kid has that point by the end of the year, which helps us in our accountability and also turns around and helps the district in their accountability.
Last question, then stop asking questions. Did any kind of tracking mechanism like this, was this taking place prior to you and Ms. Hornstein and Ms. Houston kind of putting something like this together?
If there was, it was random and we were not able to locate it when we got here. So this was definitely, Christy spent a ton of time putting this together, and so the minute a student enters Taylor High School, they are added onto this spreadsheet. The minute our freshman class of 2026 came in, there was a tab added, and we can actively see where they're going, and we track them from the day one on the high school through their last day in the through their senior year.
Trustees, are there any questions or comments?
So, when it's in the acronym, but I guess explain to me the military part of it. It's called the college and the career.
So in the past, it's kind of been a silent M. If a student enlisted in the military, Texas said, great, we don't have a way to track that. So starting this year, if a student enlists in the military and fills out the necessary paperwork and gives it to us, we upload that in our system and it gives them then their point. So it says like, yes, you're not going to college. Yes, you're not, you may not have an IBC, but you have said, I am actively serving in the military, and they consider them college, career, or military readiness. They have brought the M back into the acronym.
It's after they've already.
They have until.
The readiness part, like, do they have to take the ASVAB to be considered military ready?
No, while we encourage it, and we still offer the ASVAB, in order for them to get that point or for them to be considered military ready, they just have to enlist. Now, for us academically, we're able to.
So I think one important thing to note is that our CCMR data is lagging data. So they have time to account for those students that have enlisted in the military because we're a year behind. So for example, our accountability for this year will be for our 2022 graduates in CCMR.
Backwards.
Yeah, so
Am I missing something here? It's backwards, right? Like,
It is backwards.
it is
the readiness
backwards.
should be, they've taken the ASVAB, they've met some requirements, and like they could enlist if they want to, not.
Yeah, so what the state does is they give us a report of all the students that they have down as being college, career, military ready. And then they give us a month to look at that list and verify. And if they have missed anybody that we know of, then it's our job to tell them, you've missed, these 10 kids because we were tracking them and we know that they have these indicators. We resend that back to the state and then they will finalize our report. It's called the CCMR verifier. So this is extremely important because you're asking like, well, how do you know? We have a year's worth of time where the state's collecting all this data. And so then you're right, it's backwards. It's a year behind.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, if y'all need any help or you need a resident expert on getting some of the kids informed on what the military is actually like, I'll volunteer to.
Be careful what you wish for.
Uh,
No, but we would gladly welcome any opportunities to increase awareness.
glad to help, but
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback on what, Joe said, because I was able to last year meet with, some of the legacy students. And the opportunities for veterans after they serve, that Hazelwood Act, it'll pay for their college. Not only that, as I have daughters, and my daughter got to utilize some of my benefits. So those are some of the positive things about being in the military. And plus, you're a little older when you go to school and, a little more mature, so.
yeah, I think there's just a lot of people that are just uninformed or just not sure what is it really like, and can talk to someone who is a non-recruiter, right? Like because recruiters have a reputation. So I'm not saying that it's accurate, but it's just a rumor that is out there. I would be willing to help with that. So
That may be something we can
a lot of good
put
opportunities.
together.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fink.
Thank you, Ms. Ware. Item number 2 on superintendent's aggressive monitoring practices.
Mr. Ortiz, at our last board meeting, board members had asked for an update on just the practice of aggressive monitoring that we were referencing when we talked about improving student performance, especially in the area of math. So I'm going to have Ms. Rodriguez share a little bit about that. This video.
At MPE, our focus this year is on our math instruction to ensure we are equipping students with critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Our teachers have recently learned about aggressively monitoring their students as they work independently. Aggressive monitoring is where teachers are able to go to every student in their class and provide each student with immediate feedback. Students are provided with clear expectations and a criteria for success. When teachers are circulating the room, they're able to see students' misconceptions immediately, monitor, collect, and respond to student data before students complete an assignment that's incorrect. The teacher is able to jot down notes about what the particular student is struggling with, provide them a prompt, and then move on to the next student, making sure they circle back to those students that needed the prompting. I was able to visit with a few students after the teacher had done this a few times, and they were able to express how it has helped them on their independent work and without feeling defeated. And some even shared that it made them feel good that they were on the right track. I feel that with teachers doing the aggressive monitoring, it is able to build student confidence and their joy of learning math.
So I'm looking at my phone because we also have some statements. So that was a message from our Posman principal. So thank you so much for that debut. That was amazing. And thank you, Mr. Crow, for putting that together for our community. I think it's just, it's super important for us to tell the story of what's happening in our classrooms and how we're helping students achieve that success and close the gaps that they've been experiencing, especially in math. And that takes some aggressive work from our teachers, but not necessarily aggressive in the sense that they're in their faces, but they're just so active and moving, so much about the room, which is why we deem it aggressive monitoring. But really, it's like, think of a teacher walking around with a clipboard and going to every student and being able to say whether or not that student is meeting a specific skill that lends itself to them understanding the overall concept of what they're learning for that day. And it's immediate feedback for students. There's students that are using sticker charts. There's teachers that have little booklets where students are putting their own stickers and tracking their progress. And so it just involves the whole classroom community in everybody's learning. And so we have this also happening at our middle school and at MSI. And so a couple of our middle school teachers said, this is from Miss Brittany Easthope, 8th grade math. She said, aggressive monitoring is increasing student engagement thus far. I am still working on perfecting the skill, but just the essence of it is proving effective. And so she's really seeing benefits for her. Mr. Acord, who's also jumped in to support our math classes, aggressive monitoring is fantastic at both simplifying the grading process and giving immediate feedback to the students. They are desperate to get a star or check and work to improve their overall output while shortening the time it takes to grade drastically. So not just a benefit to our teachers, to our students, but obviously a benefit to our teachers as well. And everybody just knows where they are in the moment of learning. And I think that's what's, most important about what we're doing with this in this process.
Questions?
Thanks for the update.
You know, seeing this, well, I'll do it in my update. Thank you.
Before we move on, just every time I see it,
Movie night.
School board meeting. So, one of the things that I really like about aggressive monitoring is it's allowed for a lot more teacher and student interaction. I remember last year we heard from our superintendent's advisory council from the students, juniors and seniors at Taylor High School. And when we asked about what are some things you want us to think about as we think about instruction in the next year, they actually said, we wish we had more interaction with our teachers. That's something they really desire. This is a real natural way for that student and teacher interaction to happen. I also heard from a middle school parent where they talked about how much homework should be coming home versus how much homework is taking place in class. And it's that delicate balance, right? We want kids to get work to reinforce things they know, but practicing correctly over and over again is a heck of a lot better than going home and practicing incorrectly over and over again, and especially in the area of math. If I can be prompted really quickly on a way I'm heading the wrong direction while I'm in class, that's extremely valuable compared to when I go home and I'm trying to Google what the answer is or text message a friend and said, how did you do that one problem? So I'm really proud of the work our math teachers are doing. I really feel like it's heading in a positive direction. I appreciate our principals really leading that effort and supporting their teachers as well.
Next on the agenda, after every conference, we like to kind of download and give the trustees an opportunity to kind of talk about their experience. And so at this time, we're going to talk about TASB. And I'd like Joe, because he's the junior member here, to kind of share his experience a little bit at TASB.
Make sure this is on. It being the first TASB conference I went to, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was a great opportunity. One of the first things, just chronologically kind of walking through it, one of the first things I signed up for was a field trip where I had the opportunity to see two different schools, two extreme different schools. A brand new school that was built and just opened in 2019, elementary school, and just seeing everything that they included in that to taking the children's learning into consideration as far as collaborative spaces and all the flexible seating options. It was really good to see that. So to hear teachers talk about that and ask for that, like teachers that we have, and then to see it, and like in an occupied school, we went during a school day when children were there and they were enjoying it. That was a really eye-opening experience. On the other end of the spectrum was we went and saw Thomas Jefferson High School, which was built in 1932. And so seeing a school that's built correctly in the beginning, maintained properly throughout the years, I got to see how fantastic, like on the safety and security part, we heard from the head of school how difficult it is because they have 86 entrances and exits in one high school. It's the largest high school in San Antonio, the oldest high school in San Antonio. Gorgeous campus, but so seeing their challenges there. So that was the main takeaway whenever I got there the first day, for the rest of the conference, I did enjoy what I went to, knowing that we could be getting into contracts at some time in the future. I went to a contract for construction class meeting session, and they brought up a lot of good points there. As well as, since I'm a new member, junior member, I wanted to know, they had some opportunities there for me to see, what does your superintendent expect from you? What a superintendent wishes you knew about being a school board member, and then and there were superintendents in there and school board members alike. So it was really good to hear both sides, and I do know that one of the things that they said about being a team and a unified board is one of the biggest things, and just having open, candid conversations with your superintendent. So really fantastic overall experience for me. I got to meet other school board members from Houston District as well. And that one, having 137,000 students enrolled, is kind of overwhelming to hear a peer that does that in a school district at large. So don't want to get long-winded, but I'll take it all night if you want to know day by day what I did. So it was fantastic. It was a great opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, among the sessions that I attended, the two that really helped me the most, I went to one on districts of innovation. I was not super familiar with that, but knowing that we are one, being able to see all of the things that you can embed and put into your district of innovation plan that gives the district some flexibility and ability to do some things, that was very eye-opening for me. So I want to read our own plan. I want to get that plan and take a look at it and see what we've done, just as a comparison to my notes. The second one I attended was on making the district a magnet for talent. And in particular, in that session, there was the superintendent from Lockhart, and I think I shared this with Dr. Padaville. And they have like 6,500 students, 80% Hispanic, something in that regard. But they're doing some super creative, innovative things to attract and retain teachers. They don't have a super high turnover rate. Additionally, he used the example that at Texas State this past year, Texas State graduated 7 teachers that were bilingual, and of the 7, Lockhart attracted 6 of those. And so how they did that is, I thought, is something that we need to go do, excuse me, or look at and see. They giving paid internships, other things that they were doing that were creative to make their district really attractive to not just new teachers coming out of college, but for a broader base. So some learnings there as well.
Where? Yes. I'm sorry. Okay.
The first one I chose is a really good one because some shared experiences about weathering the staff and recruitment storm. So it's always good to, misery loves company, to talk to other people that they're, suffering through the same things we are. But the exciting thing was that I really didn't get a whole lot of new because we're doing it. A lot of our stipends are encouraging. One thing we did talk about, besides money, throwing money at them, was to help with the housing. And I got some ideas about the people that I know that I gathered a little bit to help people who own a lot of rental property. But, because I think that's one of the problems with some of our teachers really good. And talking about the old buildings, I can't remember if it was in this one or another one where, it was inspiring to see that sometimes just little tweaks to design that help teachers seem happier. And, even in an old building, and I think some of the grants that we've seen from the CDOM, teachers are doing that to, buy up that place. But we had a great speaker. I'm sure all of you Longhorns have heard of Jerry Johnson, but he did talk about the Longhorns not very talks more about libraries, and with this $50,000 grant that we're getting from these people in Georgetown, I was very excited to think about. I mean, I just love to hear a story about somebody who's famous who gives back, who gives back to the community. He is wonderful, and really. Then I made the mistake, and you know, I have high blood pressure, so it really wasn't a good idea, and I told myself I shouldn't go to this one. Went anyway, to the people talking about the library. So, thank heaven we have not had this experience yet, but it was a really good premise. There was a librarian who'd been a librarian for a number of years, and her brother happened to be a lawyer. So they were talking about the difference in where the First Amendment applies. And I love the fact that he said, you know, people can talk about what you're going to teach children or what's supposed to be in the book, and you're talking about your curriculum. The library is the place. So they went in that, and it was going great till 8 minutes before it was over. And then we had some yay. I mean, I've been to a lot of coffee. I'm telling you, hundreds of coffee shops. And never have I been embarrassed by my people. They're the first time for everything. These people, they live very close. Attack these presenters like I've never witnessed in my life. And I was speechless. But thank heaven, somebody at my table spoke up and said, you are the rudest people. Let us leave it. So anyway, bottom line, thank my lucky stars we haven't had to approach this situation. Hopefully we never will, but getting bird's eye view of these people, good lesson in how not to ever get into this. So anyway, I rounded out my experience by listening to Mike Morath. He's the Commissioner of Education, right? Very late in the afternoon, so I should have known, but anyway, he admitted to the truth that his background is in technology. He made quite a success of his technology. And at one time in his life, he subbed a classroom for now, trying to help a school district finish 6 months that this person didn't finish contract. I just couldn't do it. And I thought, okay, let me check again. You're the Commissioner of Education. Okay, then. So I'll just leave that with you. Okay? But I had a great time. I really did. I really did. I'm always amazed. Still lower your blood pressure. I know.
Anita? Yep.
Now, don't be too positive. It was not comforting, but it was good to hear that other school districts, the majority, are struggling the same way. They're struggling with attendance. They're struggling with parental involvement. They're struggling with filling their classrooms with qualified teachers. So we're not on an island. You know, it's sad that everybody's feeling that, but it's a little bit comforting knowing that it's not. And like Ellen said, every suggestion that was tossed out there, we're doing. So you know, that was a bit of a, that's why. A couple of positive things from some of the sessions that I was doing at Fairfax. One of them was talking about how to put a positive spin on parent conferences to kind of this is a little trickery, bribery. They get their parents to come to a parent conference to brag on their kids, to tell the teacher what a great kid they have. And, you know, if they think that that's what they're coming for, you know, they might, ask for help. And then that
to is what a parent thinks high points of their kids are. And, you know, it may be something that student saw. But it got the parent in the conference. At the elementary level, there's a school that is allowing a day off out of the classroom for each grade level. The second Friday of each month, second grade teachers don't have it. And they can use that day as a planning. However they need to use it, they have to be on campus, have to do stuff, they have to stay home and watch soap operas. But it is a scheduled planning day where they know they don't get decisions. And that kind of an encouraging. Then I went to two sessions that I thought were really interesting. One of them was on case certification in the lodge resort management team. You know, we're helping our pathways for our case certification. And when I was chatting afterwards with the presenter, after I were off the front, I told her, Kalahari up the road. And I really believe that Kalahari has no school district who could ask them to plug students in. I mean, other than photography. So there's some Round Rock schools that have kids close through photography stuff. But I just thought that was I've got information for them. And the other one, I used to shy away from going to places the sessions that I know that are trying to sell a program. Because usually you can't afford it or you want to do it. But one I went to Portrait of a Graduate. And it's a program that engages community in creating a learning vision for every student. What we expect our senior graduate to look like. And it was superintendents from Belton, Burns, and Lubbock, all different sizes and demographics. And they really cast a positive on what that looks like. And your I've got information on that. It is a program you have to buy, but they all sounded like they really appreciated it. Thought it was a really good thing to do. Good for the community, good for teachers.
Okay, I'll be all over the place, but I promise you I'm gonna be short. I like going to things that kind of tailor for us, what we doing now, growth, trying to pass a bond, and security. I went to a couple of security class, safety and security, because that's real big throughout the nation right now. And I'm proud to say that under Dr. Patterville leadership and his staff, we doing a lot of that already correctly. Actually, I think Dr. Patterville and this board could have gave that class because we're doing a lot of things straight up. I was in a couple of classes with Jim, so he touched on a few of my things, you know. What really touched me was when the district was talking about, we know pay is real big with district, but he was talking about in schools where teachers, where they have like a teacher, they call it a teacher lounge, and what teachers can go and just, more or less just chill out. You know, they have it, this particular school have it kind of like not too far from the office in the high school, and it's where they can go and, you know, drink their tea, coffee, or whatever, and they have computers in there. It was really a nice setup, what they were showing, and say, you know, he was saying that was very invaluable to, you know, to a teacher when they could just get away and kind of just relax, you know, chill out while the day is going by. And as the students walking by, it's open glass. They can see the teachers, and they thought there was a lot of districts going to probably start going to that, especially with the newer schools, because it's something that attracting a lot of teachers in the middle school and high school level, you know. But the biggest class that I went to, don't nobody like to talk about, and actually the class was packed, but don't nobody like talking, and it's coming this way, it's already here actually, it's transgender, you know, in the schools, and how districts getting prepared and handle all that with for us, you know, what do you do restrooms, facilities, or it's a lot of different things, sports. It was very, like I say, it was very interesting. I took a lot from that because I really wanted to just hear what the educators thought about it because it's been my 17th convention, and so most of them, really and truly, it's a different spin. They're doing it another way. Whether you heard it in Houston, Dallas, Austin, or San Antonio, you pretty much heard all of it just in a different way. And so, but that was the first time since I've been on the board they had a course strictly for transgender. And, of course, there was a lot of questions I asked, and I mainly was listening because it's just something that throughout the state of Texas and the nation, Taylor ISD is coming, and people don't like talking about it, but it's coming. That was the one that really pretty much touched me the most, and just being proud of, because like I say, I don't want to echo what Anita said, Ms. Tennell, Jim, Joe, Marco, some of us went in some of the same classes. She stole some of my thunder about Derek Johnson. I was impressed with him as a speaker and giving back the library, 25,000 books and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was very impressive. And we're not far away, Taylor ISD. I'm proud to be a part of Taylor ISD. You know, we had a class where some guy thought he done a great job. He gave a sack of candy away. You know, he thought he was that good. So they just started passing out candy. You know, and seriously, Snicker bars. I think Marco was in that class with me. Was you in that class with me, Jim? Yeah. So, everything is very refreshing. And we as a board, we're one of the few boards, based on some of the ones I talked to while I'm down and has been talking to over the years, that pretty much all 7 of the board members be down there for 2 days, some of them 3 days, along with the superintendent. And that, to me, that speak volumes. Because it be some board members down there, you might have 3 board members, and the other 2 doing them online, the other 2 just ain't gonna do it until later on, and superintendent nowhere to be found. So I think Anita can piggyback on that. We have always, as Taylor, we have always pretty much shown well as a team, and that mean a lot. And last but not least, I want to say I took a fall for the district. I fell in front of a bus, and it is a true story, on Friday, and trying to be a gentleman like I am and let the woman come through, and stepped off the deal in San Antonio, and the drop was farther than I thought it would be, and so I went one number, but I had an opportunity. I ain't had nothing to grab. And so skinned my knee and arm up a little bit, broke my watch, but it was all good, and I mean the school people that was willing to help real quick. I mean, I was very impressed with that. You know, when you fall, first thing you do is look around because you're kind of embarrassed. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. But the bus driver, he saw me, so he stopped in plenty of time because it was no way I could have avoided it if he wouldn't have been looking. You know, so and I was pretty much sure that it happened that Friday evening before we went to eat and stuff. So I was pretty much sure the whole time, but through it all, you know, we made it through, and I'm thankful it wasn't worse because I was pretty much sore, and I went to a little urgent care when I got back on that Sunday. I thought my neck was bothering me, but everything worked out. I told Marco, he started laughing. I said, man, it wasn't nothing to grab. I mean, nothing but air and opportunity, you know. So I know the ground was coming, so I just prepared myself for it. But you know, it all worked out.
It's like slow motion. I'm not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, but the prior to working with you guys, long time, people like Mr. who taught my kids, you know, and just a pleasure. And Dr. Padavere has a great staff, and I'm proud to be a part of Taylor ISD. Thank you, Marco, for giving this opportunity.
You know, just to close out, TASB had an interesting delegate assembly that I've been to a couple of times, and let's just say, in this particular case, they utilized the parliamentarian a little bit more than they normally would at delegate assembly, but it was all good. Yeah, and to tie into Shorty's, that candy bar thing, I mean, it was pretty neat. I think I took 2 candy bars. But they were actually talking about the possibility, because I think they were talking about student getting paid for the enrollment versus the ADA and the negatives of doing it enrollment way. So I've actually reached out to the gentleman to see if he could provide me that information to pass it on to Dr. Panaville. But it was overall a great conference, just like it normally is. I appreciate you guys taking the time to go out there. Next on the agenda is the president's report, but it's about the MOSBA conference. So I attended the MOSBA conference a couple of weeks ago, and that conference was actually, I just want to touch on a couple of things. Got to tour best practices. We got to see intermediate elementary, and we got to see Gus Garcia middle school. And what I took away from there is, one is, prior to us going, we actually had to submit our names again, our school district that we're representing, and if we were going to go. So what they utilize is our conference badges were actually our badges, and when we went into the middle school, they checked us off to make sure we had our badge on and we were properly vetted going into the security portion of that. We got to see, you know, I was amazed at some students. We got to go into one classroom, and you mentioned Ms. Rodriguez about a clipboard and taking notes. So these students, you can tell they got in our country recently, and for them to have 8 members, you know, visit their classroom, you'd figure that they'd be a little shy and things like that, but they were participating. They were learning how to speak, make complete sentences. They're introducing themselves. They were all English language learners, or English as a second language to them. So it was kind of nice seeing that. And at Gus Garcia Middle School, they were one of the few schools that were fully staffed. Now, granted, they only have about 400 students, but they were fully staffed with all certified teachers on there. We also got to go tour the Winston Elementary, and this is the differences that I saw in the safety and security portion of that. So we, again, utilized our badges as our getting on campus, but we had to go in, and they had all our names written. We had to sign in with the office and check them out and make sure we were who we said we were, and go. And they were checking our IDs at that point as well, at that intermediate school. So kind of, when you go to MOSBA, the tour best practices is probably the big thing that I like to see, and my wife enjoys it as well. A couple of things that I took back was, you know, we had lunch at Our Lady of the Lake University, and they have a program that's coming up for the high school, and it's they're going to choose out of Texas 20 students that are going to have their tuition paid for. I've given Dr. Padaville the information for that. Those things, so we're going to take a look at that. Another thing that we did was, and you know, you talk about programs and things like that. Well, I was very impressed, and I want to show a short video training air conditioning people. They have a STEM program that's available, and I wanted to kind of show a little video of this program Vicki has.
One program is giving Kansas students a chance to learn more about the tech field.
Yeah, the BTU Crew and Train Technologies is exposing kids in rural communities to the world of STEM in hopes of inspiring their future in a STEM-related field. And to talk more about that is trained scientist Mr. Bill Nelson. He's joining us here. Welcome in. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Let's start out with a really simple question. What is BTU, and what does BTU do?
Well, the BTU Crew is Train's education program. It's been around for a while, but, and you called me scientist. I'm actually an educator in residence with Train. Not a scientist, although I did teach science for a number of years. So what we do is we bring educational resources to science classrooms that enhance what they're already doing. So our focus is energy education, career education in terms of scientific careers that may interest students, and then STEM activities to get kids involved in not just learning about science, but doing science.
So how did Train come up with the idea for something like this?
Well, for a long time, Train has been involved in schools, but Train's involvement was in equipment and helping schools with heating and cooling. And so Train saw a need to become involved in schools in a way to enhance schools in another way. And in this case, it's in the education side.
So, over time and in your experience, what have you seen? What kind of impact have you made on these kids on the Kansas side?
Well, the fun thing is you know, students don't necessarily enjoy studying science, but they enjoy doing science.
Yeah.
And so if you go into a freshman science class, say physical science, and you say, we're going to learn about gear ratios today. Well, you can turn to that chapter in the textbook, and you can put those gear ratios on the board. But instead, it's a lot more fun to bring in small wind turbines and say, we're going to do some experiments with different gear ratios, and you're going to have the ability to determine how many blades in the turbine, what size of the blades, what shape of the blades, and we're going to see how these gear ratios produce electricity more efficiently. And then what we're going to do is we're going to compare the data from all the groups in the class, and you're going to have the chance to redo the experiment using the information that everybody's gained. And so we're beginning to implement data analytics into the classroom.
Wow, it seems like such a collaborative effort, right? Because we hear a lot of education that collaboration amongst student peers is an important way of learning, and it sounds like exactly what you guys are doing.
Well, and the collaboration between industry and the classroom. So we can bring those modern tools that industry is using and allow students to see how those work in the real world.
And to see if it's, I'm sure, a career that they want to pursue.
Absolutely. And then Train goes one step further using sensors. So we can take the information from the classroom, or excuse me, from the school, the energy that's being used, and students have access to that data. So now the students are empowered to find ways to use the energy in the school more efficiently.
Yeah, and you know what? You just have to drive down I-70 for a little while to see some of those wind turbines in the state of Kansas. There's a lot of them out there.
And lately, have you noticed that they've been turning pretty fast?
Yeah, they have. They certainly have.
Working overtime.
We've had a lot of wind lately. That's
Yeah,
right.
They've
Absolutely.
been producing a lot of area.
Yeah.
So if somebody would like to learn more about the program, where can people go?
Sure, they can go to Train's website, and our educational materials are there. It talks about our educational program. But we're excited about our relationship with schools of all sizes. Large districts, small districts alike, rural districts. It gives students, we're all about giving equal opportunities in the areas of science education to students all across the country, not just Kansas and Missouri, but all across the country.
All right, that's Bill Nelson, a Train educator, joining us here at 9 o'clock. Good to see you.
So that program kind of just stood out to me, and Train did make a commitment to MASBA, the Mexican American School Board Association. They actually committed to a $500,000 donation, sponsorship, if you will. So for 5 years, they're going to sponsor $100,000 to that organization to help with the kiddos. And not only do they have these STEM opportunities, but they also have opportunities if we decide we want like an HVAC class course or something here. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. Things that I got, you know, after as a director, and I had more of a leadership role this time around, so I didn't get to attend a lot of classes. But every time I introduced myself and I said I was from Taylor ISD, the first thing people would say, "So you're Samsung, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And then I did get to talk to our cohorts over there at Lockhart, and they were a little bit disappointed that they didn't get the Micron. But I did tell them, "Hey, that's okay, because you have my grandkids. My grandkids go to Lockhart Lockhart Independent School." So overall, it was a great conference at MASBA.
You know, one thing maybe to add, just in reconnaissance, talking about the bond that we have, it's interesting. There are 9 bonds in Texas this year over $500 million. And there are 3 bonds that are over $1 billion. 3 school bonds this year that are over $1 billion. So there is a ton of money that's being needed and being looked at for education in general. But it was kind of staggering to think of the amount of bonds that are going to be potentially used in the coming months in the name of education.
Again, I appreciate you guys going to the conferences. All right, next on the agenda is the bilingual ESL program update. Mr. Rodriguez?
right. So this next portion is to satisfy the requirement for the annual review of our bilingual and ESL program. And so basically, what we're going to do is just talk about our overall program from last year, so 21-22 school year. Again, the purpose of this presentation is to satisfy the requirement to present a program effectiveness and student academic achievement for our bilingual and ESL students. We currently have 3 different models, program models, which are our dual language immersion one way that we have at our elementary schools, where we have our bilingual students self-contained in a classroom that they are learning their instruction in both English and Spanish, and the overall goal is for them to learn, be efficient enough in the English language so that they can then be with a greater population moving forward. And we also have ESL content-based students, so those that don't necessarily need a self-contained and they're a little more fluent in English, they are able to be with the general population of English-speaking students in all of their content-based classes. And then we have a pull-out program in our secondary schools where students who need additional support, our ESL students, are pulled out at certain portions of the day, or they spend one class period in an ESL classroom becoming more fluent in the English language. Currently in our district, we have 618 students enrolled in this program or with this program indicator, and you can see the breakdown off to the side. THJ 74, NPE 124, MSI 62, TMS 147, Legacy 32, and THS 179. So we have quite a large population of ESL students. Overall, our performance in TELPUS could have been better. As we know, when we looked at our numbers, just overall state assessment performance numbers for last year, we did have quite a bit of growth, but we also were able to see our areas of need, and this one was definitely one of our areas of need that we already had picked up on when we dug into those accountability numbers during the summer. And so basically what these charts are showing you are how many total students were assessed on TELPUS, how many of them stayed at the same level, meaning they didn't show any growth or they even had a backslide to their growth or to their learning. How many students moved up one level in the way that TELPUS assesses them for their fluency, reading, writing, speaking in English? How many went up 2 levels, and this is percentage based, and then how many were at that, went up 3 levels. And so obviously we want those numbers to look better moving forward. And so we do have our instructional specialist, one of our instructional specialists on the team that is focused pretty much, I'd say 50% of her time is just looking into this data and targeting these specific students to support those teachers and these students. So one of the things that we did last year was try to bring in a little more professional development than what was seen in the past. And so although there typically are director meetings that the region holds, there's standard trainings that are required annually for teachers such as LPAC, there's TELPUS training and things like that, compliance training. We did also build in a vertical alignment meeting for all our bilingual teachers that we've carried forward and are trying to amp up this year in terms of allowing our bilingual teachers to come together to talk about their best practices. In many cases, there's one teacher per grade level that support our immersion students or our one-way dual language classrooms, and so it's just helpful for them to have an opportunity to plan together, collaborate, and share some of the things that are supporting their students to be successful. We also have multiple family engagement nights throughout the year to bring in our bilingual families. So elementary, middle, and high school all have scheduled parent nights. They had them last year. They will have them again this year. Every summer, we have our K and first grade summer enrichment program, where we offer opportunities to bridge some gaps for students over the summer as they're coming into school and as they're moving into first grade. And then we also had some of our Samsung engineers come over and spend some time with our students, and specifically in our bilingual classrooms to support the needs of our students as well, involving our community. So taking a look at just that population of bilingual students, this was their overall performance on STAR last year. So in grades 3, 4, and 5, you can see the different percentages of those students that hit approaches, meets, and masters. So not, again, where we would want to see them, especially knowing that we have such a large population of students in this group. But this overall, we have to start somewhere, and these numbers just tell us where we currently are and where we need to go and how to support them. This is that same overview for our TMS students in that approaches, meets, and masters category. And this chart is for our high schools. So THS is on the left and Legacy on the right. So to wrap up our presentation, we just looked at numbers, and again, this is some baseline data for us as a team that's come together to really dig into where we are with our kiddos and where we need to go. And so some challenges that we've been talking about for some time now are staffing. We know that just teachers, there is a shortage of teachers, and there is an even greater shortage of bilingual teachers. And so that's just an obstacle that we have to work as a team to overcome. And so it's not just the teacher that's responsible for those students, it's the entire district community. And so the teaching and learning team is in those classrooms. I'm not certified, but I can speak Spanish, and so I jump in there and help when I can as well. And so it's not just on one person. Because of that shortage in staffing, we do have to submit the exceptions and waivers to the state to tell them that we don't have ESL certified teachers with those students, and so we'll be submitting that next month in November. And then obviously, if our monolingual English students are experiencing a learning gap, definitely our bilingual students are experiencing that gap, and maybe sometimes more because of the language barrier. So we do know that that exists. Celebrations, to address the staffing, we are competitive with our stipends, and so that is a huge bonus that we do have to offer teachers that are interested in coming to Taylor. We are working to expand our recruitment, not just within the United States, but also several districts around us have partnered with programs in Spain and in Mexico, and so we're looking into those as well, and developing agreements with them to have educators come over to support our students from those countries. And then, as I mentioned before, we have a dedicated bilingual instructional specialist to support our teachers and students in that special population, who was a phenomenal teacher herself, and so she's using those strategies to now support the learning that's happening in those classrooms. And that's the end of the overview.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Next, item E, proposed alternate work schedules for support operations. Ms. Whitfield?
Mr. Ortiz, Mr. Weidler had approached us earlier in the year talking about opportunities to recruit and retain staff, and also allow our staff to have the work hours that it would give them the time to attend to their own families and be involved in the lives of their children who are here in school as well. So I'm going to give Switzel and Mr. Weidler the opportunity to present.
As we've all been talking about staffing in the last hour, we really do want to try and find different ways to attract staff to Taylor ISD. And not only our teaching staff, our support operations staff as well. And so we're competing with a lot of people for support operations staff, and as we have things building near us, and we know it's going to continue to get even more competitive. And So Lance and his team brought together a proposal for an alternate schedule, and so I'm going to have him present this now. It's something that we're considering doing for January, so we'd like to hear some questions and feedback from you guys on this.
Thank you for your time. We propose at this time to change the maintenance and ground staff to 4 10-hour days year-round. That would put approximately 12 maintenance and ground staff coming in on Monday through Thursday, 9 maintenance and ground staff Tuesday through Friday. Each month the staff would switch from Monday through Thursday to Tuesday through Friday. This not only give more time for family, but also allow them to save some money and not have to put wear and tear on their personal vehicle to get to work. And during that switch over, it would give one group a 4-day weekend each month when they do the crossover. For custodial, we reviewed numerous options. The hardest area for us to staff is the second shift from 2:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. That's where I get the most turnover. People are looking and searching for different options. We propose to change the custodial afternoon shift from 2:30 p.m. To 11 p.m. to 1 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. This would allow for Taylor ISD to attract more qualified staff due to the hours and allow the staff more time to spend with their families in the evenings. During the summer, all staff would come back on the regular schedule that we're going to run through the summer. So Monday through Thursday, allow for the district sites to shut down on Friday to save money. Do you have any questions in regards to anything I brought up?
Lance, go ahead.
Yeah,
Do you have quite a few that how far do some of them commute?
I have some people that quite a few that commute from Rockdale. Some other of my staff have their own businesses, which would give them another day to schedule time for that during the week. And like I said, it would give them more time to plan out for those 4-day weekends.
Yeah.
It's huge. I've been in multiple districts. I've started in the grounds department. I know the opportunities there for us to do this and to bring more people in and fill those positions.
And what would the core hours be?
For the staff would be it'd be from 6 to 4:30. An hour lunch.
Yeah.
And then for custodial, of course, it would be from 1 to 9:30.
And you have the skilled technicians, and that when that one person that your A-game HVAC guy,
right?
And if he or she is out, then
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. There would be an HVAC tech Monday through Thursday, and then one for Tuesday through Friday. And then if, let's say there's a schedule conflict that one week, that would give them time to talk to their other coworkers and say, can we switch this? Can we do this? I've talked to the business office. That's where the January start date came from. We wanted to make sure that they were very comfortable. It wasn't going to affect them. December and November are pretty hard for transitioning, so we chose January. And I think that, it's a huge selling point for us. And we can say, come work for us 4 10-hour days all year round. In the summertime, my staff love it. Yeah. It takes them a week or two. They're like, oh, I'm tired of 410s already. And then at the end, they're, man, I wish we didn't have to go back to 410s. Yeah. This is the last 410 week? Oh, man. Yeah. As far as right now, myself and my administrative assistant will be Monday through Friday. So I will be there every day. They will be there, like I said, depending on the schedule. I have also went through and looked at every individual and find out, what their strengths are and who we can compare, who we can put them with as a group to make a
talent management. Right. Yeah, I'm a 4-day guy. My guys that do maintenance stuff, they're 4 days, and that's what we had to do. So, big fan of it because it you're absolutely right. It saves on the wear, like you said, with the gas prices the way they are. I mean, a 30-mile commute one way, that's 60 miles a week. Game changer. Okay. Wanted to know a little more. Thanks. Appreciate it.
business rule is, that's your doctor appointment day, or whatnot. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Shorty, you answered it. You answered my question already.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So on vacation, so if they take a vacation, it's a 10-hour on vacation.
If it's a half a day, it's 5 hours. Now with it being 4 days a week, it kind of gives us a little bit of flexibility as well. Let's say one of my staff members uses a lot of their vacation days up. If they had an accident, then maybe we can flex that day to help them out with their family, with their paycheck, and they can work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They have to be out Wednesday. But that's something we're still looking at and discussing.
What are some other things you think you could do for help with retention? And this is obviously, I think, is a positive step, and I support it 100%.
So we've done different things so far this year. Created I would say, how you're talking about lounges, we created one for my staff. They've enjoyed it thus far. We have multiple times a year we do cookouts for the staff, and some of my staff members are very good cooks. I'm not, but they are. And then we do a lot of different things throughout the year. We have vendors come in and they bring lunches sometimes. And then we've had other things. We have other ideas. We haven't done them yet. I wanted to have a little kind of go to the Taylor Park and do some stuff. We haven't gotten to that part yet. Just trying to make us stand out as much as we can. I know everybody says that and we want to do that, but I really want to attract them and keep them here. I don't want to have the 1 or 2 year guys. I want the 15-year guys and people. I want to have a wait list. That's what I'd love to have, a wait list to get in our department. Like we'd have to turn people around. And I can see that being something that's going to grow and continue to have to, we're going to have to look at that every year, I'm sure, especially as we bigger businesses come in with their shut down.
Yeah, what's your one with the longest tenure?
I'd have to go back and look. I know I have some in there. I'd have to look, sir, and get back.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to be clear, so that's maintenance, 410s, custodial still 5/8?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the morning shift for the custodians?
They come in they start at about 6:30, and then they usually overlap, and that's our leads. They overlap, and they meet with the afternoon shift.
Do you anticipate any, I wouldn't say pushback, but requests to like, hey, this month you're working days, this month you're working nights? Do you see any pushback from any of the custodians that, hey, can we try something different?
So some of this stuff I've met with them, and this was brought up by them. Not saying that, I never said that we were going to do this. I said this is something we're looking at. I wanted their opinion, and that was their opinion was the afternoon shift. The day shifts are coveted. There's not many, so the night shifts are the more.
Well, I mean, to me, changing that and getting them home earlier, that's a big win.
I want my staff to see their family at night. I want them to tuck their kids in, tell them they love them, and make sure they have their homework done before they lay down. And that's a big thing. That's the hardest thing to fill. They'll come to me and we'll go through the interview process. Oh, these are the hours. Well, I can't do that. A lot of the districts that I contacted, the ones that have the least amount of vacancies are the ones that have the earlier shifts. Whenever if and when this gets pushed out in January, we'll have meetings before then to let them know what the schedules are. It'll give them time to adjust if we need to do something different for an individual that has childcare and issues with their family. It'll give us time to adjust that. But overall, I think it's a good plan. And if our cleanliness for the custodial, I do want to say this, if our cleanliness for the custodial drops and we notice it, it's noticeable, then we'll have to look at something different. And they're going to be aware of that when they're always. watch it very closely for the first 3 or 4 months and just monitor and go talk to the teachers and see where we are at putting in the syllabus.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Next on the agenda, Ms. Witzel, upgrade to Teams contract.
I'm gonna get it pulled up in just a sec. Okay, in a few minutes, Jenna Self's going to talk to you about, during our finance part, about some expenses for Teams or Frontline. And so Frontline, or Teams as it's most commonly known, is our software system that we use here in the district. We brought it into Taylor in 2014, 2015. It does 2 different things. It does student information systems, and that's how we see our students' grades, how we take attendance, how we do online registration. But then there's another side to it, and that's the enterprise resource planning, the ERP side of it. And with that, we're at that time, it's just time for an update. And so you have probably heard through the grapevine and the rumor mill, Teams has some issues. We'll be the first ones to say we've been talking to them since I started here about what can we do to make Teams more efficient here in the district and for us to use it a little bit better. And so what we're talking about right now is how we can make improvements on the ERP side. And what the ERP side is recruiting, hiring, time tracking, so that's for our hourly employees, absent management, professional development, and purchasing and procurement. And so with our discussions with Frontline, here's what they're proposing. For $48,000, they can come in and re-up our system, give us all the upgrades, give us additional training, and fix some of the issues that are currently happening with the system. And so, me, I'm a little frugal, and so I asked, okay, isn't this just part of the package? We pay you guys yearly. And they said, no, think of it like a cell phone. You're operating on an iPhone 8 and everybody else is on iPhone 15. And so for you to get up to date with everyone else, you'll need to add some pieces to it. And so 60% of that will be reviewing position inventory. With that, everything that happens when we hire a person, they come in, they're given a teacher number. That's how they are tracked in the online system, Frontline Teams, the entire time they're with the district. That's what ties them to their absences, ties them to payroll, to stipends. And so instead of everything being on paper, because right now we do a mixture of paper and software because we don't have the additional bells and whistles yet, this would streamline everything. So you weren't having to touch a new hire or an existing hire multiple times. The next piece is reviewing the financial reporting and budgeting, and also the training piece. So this was brought into the district in 2014. The training for all this started in 2013-14. So when you look at some of the people that were here for the original part of it, there aren't many left. Also, and not in an ugly way, they just weren't here for the implementation of it. And so the training components that come with that. And so part of it, the reporting and budgeting, this will streamline that. It will address the payroll concerns, because we're currently not using full capabilities. One of the biggest ones is stipends. We're still doing that by hand on spreadsheets. This new system will allow you to embed it directly into Teams. Workflows for position approvals and vacancy approvals. The ad hoc reporting, that's how we do purchasing and how we keep up with our property in the district. And so right now we have a lot of different systems that don't talk to one another, and so this would put everything in one place. And then the training component of it. And the last one is the PM time, and so with this is the time that they would take after to make sure that everybody could utilize the systems. And so that is 240 hours worth of work at $200 an hour for $48,000. That would be a one-time cost for what they call optimizing the system. We have an annual contract with them already. The other part that would be an expense, currently, if you go to our webpage and try and apply for a job, you can apply to be a volunteer or you can apply to be an assistant superintendent, and it is the same application. And so this would allow us to have multiple applications in there, especially for our volunteers and for our substitutes that don't need the length that we are currently offering. It'll also clean up our job site. Everything that you see right now online for our, to apply for a job or even our vacancies is run through Teams. And so for that to be the updated one, which is actually called AppliTrack, it would need the optimization. Here's the timeline that they're proposing. And know that this isn't them just working on it. So this is our people in our office, staff that are working with them to continue to update the system. So this is us and them working together. Big ones in November include the business process review, finance, accounting, budgeting, procurement, payroll, human resources, and talent acquisition, and how it all connects to the campus. December would be position management and the security workflow, which is building dashboards for the campus and district staff. And then December through April is when they work on the recruiting and hiring. That would be the new piece to streamline the vacancy piece. And then employee management. That's the part right now I'm the most excited about. That would allow you to be able to hire someone and it go directly to payroll and budgeting, and so that it's all connected. And then continuing on through February all the way to March, the next one would be employee management as well as absent management. And then you finish out with business reporting. And so some of this would clean up the PEIMS, the W-2 reporting, as well as the civil rights and flexible finance reporting. Do you have any questions on the optimized piece from Teams Frontline that we're proposing?
Yeah, trustees, this is an amount under the $50,000 threshold that you approved. However, since it is still a significant expenditure, we did want to keep you informed about it and allow you to ask any questions before we hit the go button on next steps.
Jim, then Joe.
I just had a quick question on the training and so forth that follows this. Is that all in person? We'll have people here on the ground doing that?
They said that it would be a mixture. They would have hybrid, some in person, and then some hybrid opportunities. But they'd also record that so that if we hired in people in the summer that were doing that, or we wanted to cross-train and people were tied up during that time, that they would have access to it as well.
And then the second question, is that $200 an hour inclusive of like all of their travel, potential travel expense, all that?
Yes, sir.
I have the same question. Perfect. Do they have, I know you said since it was implemented in the beginning, well, first, the ISD likes this, like y'all like you wouldn't want to change like to a different program.
No, we would not answer that. This system, Teams, it's like a language for the organization, and we have entertained the thought of going to a different system. It is, the year of transition is incredibly costly. Second part of that is we have concerns about the strain it would put on the organization. I mean, you would be talking about everyone from the classroom to business and finance to human resources, basically having to learn a new language. And I have memories of my mother who retired from nursing. The thing that pushed her over the edge was it was time to learn a new computer system.
Yeah.
So knowing about that for our teachers as well, we just have concerns about whether it'd be worth it to transition to a different system. I will just speak frankly and say that for a service program that's providing a service to us, I think it is kind of ridiculous that we have to pay additional fees to see the appropriate upgrades for it to work efficiently, but that's the way the program works.
Yes, sir, and I understand cost of doing business with these. I just wanted to make sure that, like, if you're, we're gonna sink another 50K into it, then we actually like it, and yeah, I agree that transition is horrible. I know you said, it's 2013-14 was in the initial training.
Yes, sir.
Do they have, is it possible that they have a train the trainer type course where you could get we could get our Gee Whiz ninjas that really understand and grasp that, but then could also deliver it to anybody else new in the next 4, 5, 6 years when we gotta go.
It's a good question, and one that we continually ask Frontline. They're not set up for that quite yet. They have what they call TUG, which is a Teams user group, which is basically the best of the best from each district come together, and it's people doing the same job in a different district, and they help train one another, and so it's almost like a help group. But no, they currently don't offer the trainer of trainer piece, and that's why we've asked specifically, can we record what we're doing? Are there pieces that you can provide us with the initial training that we're doing now that we can carry over?
Yeah, so we're self-sustaining.
Yes.
That's okay. Yeah, that's all. Only question. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? And this is strictly training, the 48,000.
No, sir. This is coming into our system and retooling it, going in and cleaning up positions. And so an example that I can use right now, I'll use myself. I'm in a position that's no longer a title in the district, but because I was hired under that position control number, we can't change it. And so we have a lot of those one-offs in our system because when we built it back in 2013, we didn't know any different. Not against anyone here. They just kind of say, hey, put in your positions any way you want. Well, we've learned a lot since then. We would make them a lot more standard instead of as specific as they are.
Good to go. All right. Item G, goals 2 and 3 update.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about Goal 2, our exceptional workplace climate. And the last time we came together to talk about exceptional workplace climate, we gave ourselves grades basically on where we were on our different critical success factors. And so I'm going to go through and talk through each of those, knowing that critical success factor 2.4 is a new one for us this year. Looking at 2.2, our strategies on this critical success factor include empowering principals to develop opportunities for decision making and to assemble teacher teams to respond to campus needs. As we learn more and more about recruitment and retention, that's the big one. Teachers want to have voice and they want to be a part of the planning and systems that happen on our campus. And some strategies we've done to this point, we've created more roles on each campus for department heads and leads, and we've stipend those pretty richly. We've doubled the number at elementary school that have that leadership piece as well as the amount of money they're bringing in. Campuses have set schedules for department and team lead meetings, and our staff from the district level are included in those campus meetings when appropriate. And so you'll see instructional specialists and district people in those meetings, and we're all on the same page and showing that united front. For 21-22, our baseline year, our strategic actions had us right around 70, and so we want to do greater than that on our interview report. And so our next data point for this will be our mid-year staff survey. On 2.3, increase the percentage of teachers remaining part of Taylor ISD team. This is the one that I feel is my biggest goal personally in human resources as a district, is to really see what we can do to keep people in Taylor. And what we see every year is as you have people come and go that you lose a knowledge piece with that. And so we're spending a lot of time training people, and we continue that cycle. And so with that, we were behind expected progress last year. Our strategies on this critical success factor include systemic support for new to profession teachers and new to Taylor ISD employees. And so we hired, as of the start of school, we had hired 100 new employees to the district. With that, 24 of those were new to education in some way. So those new and first year teachers. Of those new and first-year teachers, only 8 of them had gone through a traditional teaching prep program. And so with that, that gives us just information moving forward on strategies to support them. Human Resources, as well as technology, does a great job on that onboarding piece. We've taken feedback from our employees that have gone through onboarding, and we had some of you come by and visit one of our onboarding sessions, but we differentiate it based on our years. So if we have people that have been in education 20 years versus that first-year teacher, it looks a little bit different. Also, we have some people that are fresh out into the world. Sitting down with somebody that this is their first grown-up job compared to somebody who's been doing this for a while, it looks a little bit different on how we sit down and work with them on their W-2 as well as those first paychecks. And so we've seen some great strides with that, especially being able to offer 13-month pay. Some of our people didn't understand why they needed 13-month pay as a teacher because they don't get their first check till end of September, but they start work August 8th. And so just some of those conversations being differentiated help. We give them surveys and take that feedback from all the different summer activities. They do a New to Profession Academy. This year, an instructional specialist as well as one of our intervention teachers helped with that. So with that, we give them just the basic toolbox to start that first couple weeks of school, and that went hand in hand with what our instructional and teaching and learning team did with routines and procedures. We spent a lot of focus on what routines and procedures and how important that is to them. We did a new to the district training for all of our teachers where we brought them in, and we used feedback from what we did the year before to try and improve on this, and it was a half day this year for them. We'll take that feedback and go a little further next year. Would like to see some differentiation and more technology pieces in that, some actual hands-on pieces. And then professional development for mentors. And I think this is the piece that didn't go so well last year. And so I'm hoping that the time and energy and time together that we've done this year with mentors, that we will see that go forward. Because their conversations are so rich and they learn so much from each other, and then to see how they do with new to profession teachers has been wonderful. So for our fall, we have monthly checkpoints for year 1 and 2 teachers, mentor meetings every other month. Our mentors are logging their time together as well as doing an observation this fall, a 15 to 20 minute observation in the classroom with their new to profession teacher. We're stipending not only our mentors, but as well as our new teachers. So all of these have thresholds. You have to come to the meetings and do all the things to be able to get a stipend. And so that was a huge one. We were one of the only districts out of, I think there were 60-something districts in the training for Lead Forward that provided a stipend for the actual new teachers. We take feedback from our mentors and new teachers for each session. This last time, we asked them to grade themselves on their routines and procedures. So our new to profession as well as our mentors. And it's pretty eye-opening what they think they're good at and what they need to work on. And so then that will transition to our teaching and learning team so we can provide support for them. And then this year we've started off with Central Office Buddies, and that's somebody they can connect with here in Central Office. And it's fun to hear them talk about talking to people at the district office. And they like to say, you know, different pieces about them coming into their classroom and asking them questions. So where we were last year, we were 77% for retention for all staff. So that's 23% of staff left. By taking these strategic actions, our goal is to retain 80% or greater of our total staff. So that's support operations and people in this building. But we would like to be 85% or greater on teacher retention. Across the state, we are still high at 77% compared to some of our neighbors this year. Currently, 100% of mentors have been trained in Mentors Toolkit. 93% of year 1 and 2 teachers have attended every session. And so right now we'll have session 5 this next month. 97% of our mentors have attended every session. If you can't attend a session, we do send you materials that you're able to participate remotely if need be. But as part of our Lead Forward partnership, and that's who's given us the resources for new to profession as well as mentors, they send out every month a 30-minute webinar for the mentors on timely topics. So this month is the October dip, and it talks about the October dip and increased behavior and increased morale within your classroom. We continually monitor our exit data and exit survey feedback as part of this critical success factor. This is part of an article from Charles Butt Foundation on just teacher retention right now. And so it's interesting to see, and I know you guys attended things at TASB about what keeps people in the district. And so here are the different pieces. I thought it was pretty eye-opening to see by the age of the employee on what keeps them here. And so we're doing a little bit with each of these: retirement, salary increases, district-wide days off, paid personal days, student loan forgiveness, one-time retention. The one that you guys talked about a little bit today was affordable housing, and I think that's probably the next big one here for us to continue seeing ways that we can support. 2.4 is our newest critical success factor, and this one was added to reflect the needs to protect staff by measuring campus safety efforts. Strategies for this summer were district and city safety roundtables, professional development for our campus emergency response teams, review of our district emergency operation plans, review and audit of our district drill expectations, and procedure and facility audits. Big thank you to maintenance for all the help they did on some of those audits this year for our buildings. Strategies for fall: regular meetings with our campus safety leads. We were able to come together last month virtually and talk through our drills and the next steps moving forward. Weekly door audits. This wasn't one that Taylor came up with. This is the one from the state. But it's been interesting to see. We're trending really well on these. And so I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Our monthly safety drill reviews. Safety training for our auxiliary staff. We were able to do some training with EWCC, our subs, our cafeteria workers, grounds maintenance, all of those. We made sure that they went through a safety training and standard response protocol this year. So what is a lockdown? What is all those different drills? Additional training on the district level for threat assessment, standard reunification, and standard response protocol. And then addition of a threat assessment annex to the district emergency operation plan. And that one was with our consultant, Curtis Clay, helped with that threat assessment. And so all of our safety plans were submitted end of September. The state asked for them by October 12th, and we've submitted everything. And here is the data for that. This is our baseline year for data. By taking these strategic actions, our goal for initial data is 97% or greater. On safety drill results, right now we're at 95%. And what that means, what you're measuring, is how well we're doing those, all the different pieces that, if you're doing a fire drill, did everybody know where they were going? Did we meet our release time? Did we contact the fire department? Did they take their bug out bag with them? Did they have their rosters with them? And so after each of those drills, they do come back together and they debrief. Currently, we are 98% on our exterior door audits, and that makes me just extremely proud. And so these are done weekly. And as of week 5, we turn those over, maintenance, grounds, and myself turn those over to the campuses, and they are doing their own door audits, and they're doing them at different times throughout the week. You have to do one a week. You have to go to every door, make sure it works, make sure that it's locked, and that it's not propped. And so,
Ms. Witzel, your slide says 97% is what we're currently at. I think you said 95.
oh, so sorry.
97?
Yes, sir. And then our next data point for this will be part of the mid-year staff survey, but we'll also continue to do our drill audits as well as our door checks. Do you have any questions for me on goal 2?
Good. Ms. Witzel, before we hand it off to Ms. Tatchke for goal 3, the whole point of 2.2 and 2.3 is really helping staff feel like Taylor IC is their home and they want to return for the following year. We're going to do this presentation again in January. What leading indicators can we point to that are showing that the work is paying? So, I mean, you don't have to answer that now, but just be prepared that in January we have some, rather than waiting till the end of the year and seeing what the staff results look like in terms of who is staying and who's going, like, what are some glimmers of feedback that show us, like, that we're on the right track, either, and also from mentors as well. I'm really grateful for our mentors, but that's an added workload for them. I know that they're getting a stipend, but that stipend goes really quickly when they're giving up their evenings and extra time to mentor us.
All right, so goal 3 is quality customer service, and there are 3 critical success factors in this particular goal. For 3.1, our goal is to annually increase the percentage of parent engagement. And so the strategies focus on having the schools or the district by offering more opportunities for students and parents to come to school outside of the school day, or by us as a district or as administrators being able to have much more frequent communication to let, so as a parent, you feel like you know and are involved in what's going on. And so for the fall of 2020, some of the things that we have in place, each principal is sending out a weekly newsletter. You'll see a increased use of social media from the district level, from the campus level. We have district community letters. We have created a district calendar of different events, so you can pull up and see when different things are, and we're really working hard not to stack things on top of each other, and also to stay away from Wednesdays. Dr. Patabel has been hosting lots of town hall meetings to talk about not only just what's going on at their school district presently, but what our needs are, and helping people to be a part of. We had Meet the Principal night, we had Meet the Teacher night, we had classroom expectation nights, and we will continue to. Posman has a literacy night tomorrow. I know the other campuses, Mr. Bashi had just a movie night, for lack of a better word. So just increasing the number of opportunities for parents to be engaged, and still working on making that, I guess, more meaningful at the middle school and high school. But so 3.1 centers around that. We will be sending for a leading measure a survey. Well, and I'll talk about the surveys in just a minute that are coming. So 3.2 is we're going to annually increase the percentage of the students' satisfaction with the school experience themselves. So we realize that for students to be successful, that they have to be engaged in what they're learning, and they have to have an opportunity to develop their own learning progress. So this is something that is probably more on the school side instead of the student side, but the campus principals have, if you look at one of the strategic measures, they have worked on developing a specific walkthrough form in order to provide teachers with specific and immediate feedback in order to help the students. Certain grade levels are developing student data trackers where they can be responsible and see where they fall, what they need to grow on, and how they're growing. As far as like gathering data during the fall, and it's actually started this week, students and parents of NPE, MSI, and TMS will be given a survey that will help us get information that will guide our school improvement process. And so I think this is the first time that I can ever remember that we're asking 3rd and 4th and 5th graders to complete a survey to help us get more involved in what they think and what will help them. And so we'll not have that data until January, but we'll be able to still have plenty of time to do lots of things with that. The last critical success factor is just increasing the percentage of staff satisfaction. We want to encourage our staff to be actively involved in the community, in the improvement of the workplace. We've talked about sometimes just a Diet Coke day or jeans or whatever is really not enough. It's what people are really looking for. And I know our principals are leading by example and supporting in classrooms and helping. Also allowing the staff to be involved in what it means to campus morale, having them be a part of that. So I know that each campus, well, not each, but some of the campuses have given staff surveys and implemented the ideas. And we're trying to, as campus administrators, implement creative opportunities to acknowledge staff and celebrate their success, whether that means they get extra PLC time or what, more than just saying, here's a Diet Coke, thanks for all that you do. This particular factor doesn't, the data, like I said, in January, we'll have some really straightforward data input from students, parents, and our teachers, all three groups. And so we'll be able to come back and talk about and have some specific opportunities to grow from there. That's it for me. Mine's short.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the financial report. Jenna?
Good evening. All right, first on the list is the tax collection report. These figures are as of September 30th. So looking at these, of course, if you look at our fiscal year 2023, that's the school district's count towards the middle of the page. The total year-to-date that we've collected as of September 30th is $141,000. Looking down to the next section, that's based on Williamson County Appraisal District, their collections. The total collected as of September 30th is $21,002,431. Any questions about the tax collection report? Moving on to the statement of revenues and expenditures. The first page goes over general operating fund, 199 fund. The top, of course, shows the revenues. And if we look at the year-to-date revenues collected, we're at $3,294,000. The expenditures, you can see to the right, by each function, the balances that we've used, the percentages used, and what is remaining. The total expenditures used in general operating as of September 30th were $7,050,340. The next page reviews the 240 account, which is our food service fund. The total revenues received as of September 30th are $93,566. Total expenditures, $99,595. Debt services, total year-to-date revenues received $55,000. Total expenses, $1,020,563. And then at the bottom, that gives the total of our balances in both the Citizens Bank account, the general operating account, Texas Class Lone Star. So it brings our total cash to $14,364,032. Any questions about this statement of revenue and expenditures? Next, as Tiffany has gone through some of the all the information regarding the frontline education, it is a purchasing request for both the $48,000 and the $38,379 for the upgrade and implementation of the updated version. So this again, Tiffany mentioned that it was, or Dr. Padaville mentioned that it's under the 50,000 required, but of course in transparency, we would like to make sure you guys are aware of everything that is for your review, just to make sure you are on board. Any questions?
So I just want to clarify that, because now I see where the custom training on ERP system, that one-time fee of 48,000.
Yes, for the 240 hours.
Frontline upgrade is another 38,000, right? So earlier when I asked if that 48,000 was training only, this is where I read it, it's training only, unless I'm incorrect.
Read it.
Okay. And then further on, it talks about the prorate as well for that 30, okay, here, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, and finally, the quarterly investment report. This is as of September 30th. The portfolio summary just shows that we are our beginning market value, 3,624, ending market value, 3,645. Looking at the second sheet, just shows the Long Star investment pool. We have $3,449 beginning balance, and we ended the month or the quarter with $3,469. Texas Class Investments, we started the balance on July 1st with $174.79. Ending balance $175.73. Any questions about the quarterly investment report? Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the regular meeting September 19th, 2022, and purchasing approval. Are there any items that trustees would like to take for further discussion? If there are none, I'm open to a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Shorty, second by Anita. All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 6-0 with one absent. All right, item number 10, news business. The discussion of policy EF-A, EF-LB, library materials.
Yes, sir. So as mentioned earlier, this is a hot topic right now in the news and library materials. And so on advice from our policy services, they asked for us to take a look at our current policy for library materials. We do have an EF local. Our EF local right now is about instructional resources. And so what I've presented for you this evening is recommendations from the policy service. We can keep our EF local and make some changes to it. And so that's what you see in the red, are the changes that would happen to our current EF local, where you would go to instructional materials and library materials as part of our how we accept materials here in the district. And so with that, they go through and the policy, this is the standard policy that the state uses for EF local. And so this would be EF-A local, if we were to go with this, which is a single option that has both library materials and instructional materials in this. And so with that, you see the proposal, which is to clean up what is considered an instructional resource, how it's defined, and that's the selection part in the beginning. And so they go in and talk about appropriate subject area, age, ability, learning styles, must meet high standards. And then it goes down to promote literacy and defines what promotion of literacy is. It talks about specific criteria for selection of materials, just like we do textbooks. But with that, they include in here library materials. And most of it is that you need to be able to develop a presentation from multiple viewpoints and foster critical thinking, represent many ethnic, religious, and cultural groups, and contributions to the whole community. They go through and there's 10 more different things that they put underneath that have background, literary merit, favorable professional reviews already, received national awards, covers a variety of topics, have a high degree for potential use after the school level that they're in, requested and recommended by students and teachers, and mirror selections found in neighboring districts. It has in here many times representing diverse viewpoints and cultures appropriate to each campus. And then the part they put in here is the definition of how things can be challenged. And with that, a student who is 8 years age or older, or an individual or employee of the district. And then it gives you guiding principles for a challenge. It really defines in here that during the challenge that they can't restrict the use of it. And so what does that look like? And then the major criterion for a final decision. And with this, the recommendation from Policy Review Services is similar to our textbooks, that it's committee-based, and that with that, who would make a good committee member for a selection of materials for a library, or if there was a criteria for a challenge. And then after that, under the formal reconsideration, those would be our local pieces, our local guidelines that would fall behind that. And with that, our librarians have already presented what they would like for that to look like. Now this right here that was presented this evening is to keep our current EF, but make it EFA, which is the single option that keeps both instructional materials and library materials under one piece, and just make sure that the language is clearer and that it's more defined. Do you have any questions for me on the recommendation or the discussion of the recommendation?
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I find it unfortunate that something I'd like to do is to recognize our librarians, to give them every possible means of support. You know, I would liken it to, you know, in the business world, I keep hearing that the business world, so if you picked an engineer, you know, you're going to put your faith in his credentials. He knows what he's doing. You're not going to try to do it because you didn't go to school for that. These librarians have master's, doctorate. They've gone to every kind, because the state makes sure they go to every kind of certification, every scenario that could possibly come up. I just wish that, you know, we have a local and our librarians are great. Just give them, you know, the respect.
Oh, and Ms. Tennell, I would agree with you. Our librarians are excellent. And in fact, one of our library media specialists is currently going above and beyond and serving in a classroom as well, where there's a vacancy. But I have to give kudos especially to Ms. Lynn Butler. She, last year, without prompting, she created a book review process in case it were ever to happen, and it hasn't in Taylor ISD. And the reason it hasn't is because we have not only librarians that are extremely educated and intelligent, but they have high common sense as well. And so they screen the books that come into our libraries, and they're able to really be a good judge of what's appropriate to put in front of kids. The nice thing about a policy that spells out the challenge process is that it actually protects our librarians. That way, you know, what could have happened last year prior to Ms. Butler doing the process with the other librarians is there would have been a book challenge, then we're all looking at each other like, well, how do we want to handle this? But it's clearly spelled out here in case a community member were to approach our schools and say, well, I don't think this book is appropriate. Well, now we got a protocol to follow to really judge whether that's appropriate or not. And that policy also explains to you that that material is pulled while we're doing the review.
Taylor, or just overall with library books?
Both.
Some of them are religious in nature or historic titles that just come up all the time. Titles that are mainstream, but they get on the news and we hear them in other areas. We haven't had, as Dr. Paddle said, anything big come up, which is good. We have people that support our libraries and our librarians here.
Is the discussion point then is how the library books integrate into the overall education of the child? And to make sure that they're interconnected?
For this discussion point, we're open to any conversation regarding instructional materials that our board would want to have. This discussion point was, we wanted to get into the practice of presenting a policy for your review and discussion before putting it as an action item. So next month, we'll bring this up. This is for you to feel like you don't have any further questions on it before.
Okay. So we have opportunity to go read through this and then get back with you for additional clarification.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, next on the agenda, new business is discussion of policy CW.
Mr. Ortiz, we are presenting CW here because it has come up in the past for trustees to have the topic of potentially naming items around the district and items, buildings, structures, and even geographic features like roads after individuals who may have come from the community. I wanted to put policy CW in front of you for your review and then discussion. I will point out that there is a nomination process, and this mostly relates to buildings, but we could expand this to give you more latitude as well. But I'm going to put that in front of you and open it to board discussion.
For one, I was glad to see it, and we talked about it. I think it gives the trustees that are new to the board that haven't been through this process, because we went through this process back in February of 2016, and we didn't have a policy for naming buildings. And I think at the time we came up with, that was the time where we actually named Legacy prior to this Legacy building after Dr. Dickey. And then after that, we developed a policy for naming facilities. Looking back, and I'm glad it's here because the trustees that haven't been there or hadn't gone through this process, recently in Austin ISD, there was a incident at a high school that was named, the Performing Arts Center was named after the teacher that's been in the district for 30 years, and then students came forward. So that was kind of, it's kind of nice to let you guys know, hey, this is our process. This is how we vet this process or the naming of a facility. And, like I said, it gives us an opportunity to look at it and kind of talk about it a little bit. So I'm glad to see it's here finally. Any questions or comments about the policy? Recommendation, yeah.
It gives you something to think about.
Oh, yeah.
Because, just like the story you're referring to in Austin, name it after is still alive. You can always mess up. And so it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, it is, and it's funny because I looked it up, and it was in February when we approved this, and when we went back, there was pretty good discussion amongst the board back then,
But there was language in that, we were presented 3 options, and one of them had, I'm trying to figure it out. The board may rename an existing facility should an honoree discredit his or herself, a school, or the community. But we actually voted to pull that out, or we decided not on that particular draft when we came up there. But there was some amendments and other, it's pretty neat to see that going back. Any other questions or comments on this policy, or was it good? Is it good to go? Would anybody like to change it, or?
I'd like the opportunity to read through it and just maybe just bring it up next time.
And again, it was on here for discussion, just to bring it up, so, or just to talk about it.
I would just like to point out that Ed
It wouldn't get a nomination.
Oh,
They can't,
yeah.
they can't do anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Somebody can sign it
Oh, yeah.
50 years later. Anyway, I'm done.
And this is what I was talking about, and like, give us some time, don't just, providing us a policy for us to, have 3 days or 4 days to look at and then try to take action. I kind of like having this opportunity to have at least a month to take a look at it, ask questions, get with Dr. Padaville if you have questions, he can get those answers for us, so I like that direction.
I'm inclined, I'm inclined by the, professionally, we don't name anything. I certainly want it, if there's, and I don't think it's necessarily a concern about the possibly mess up, be an embarrassment. It's a way to memorialize them. It's a big.
All right, there's no further discussion on this policy, we'll move forward. Item C, discussion and possible action to amend policy FFA local, Narcan edition.
Mr. Ortiz, you'll notice that on this policy, we did add possible action because we believe the board may want to go ahead and amend it.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about the possible amendment to FFAC local. While we're not aware of any fentanyl overdoses in Taylor ISD at this time, we know that it has been a great problem in districts surrounding us. We've had some districts close to us that have lost students recently due to fentanyl overdoses as well as opioid overdoses. Our nurses brought to us the recommendation for grant access to Narcan, which is better known as an opioid antagonist, or Naxalon. And with that, they have been giving Narcan to school districts in case something like this were to happen, not only to our students, but if we were to host an event of any kind and we had people in our building possibly that would suffer from an overdose of any of these. And so what we're asking is to be able to amend FFAC local, which currently right now, the big one on FFAC is EpiPens. If you had somebody go into anaphylaxis, we have extra EpiPens in case we ever need them. And so similar to that, we would have Narcan available and do training for our staff if ever needed for Narcan for our students or employees. With that, only a registered nurse or someone that's been trained would be able to do that. They would administer the medication, and may only do so in accordance with the order from the physician. And we have standing orders from physicians for EpiPens, and so this would be something we would include. Any questions?
I'm just curious about the fund, because it's besides their free funding. Is that a federal government gonna pay for it?
Yes, Yes, ma'am. Right now, they are giving it free. Our local police department does have Narcan on them, but this would allow us to have it in our buildings as well. Yes, ma'am, it's available.
How do we, I know like from an EpiPen perspective, I mean, how do we keep the parents in the loop and, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, get their consent, or does it fall under an emergency response type situation? Like, you know, same thing as if a kid fell and broke their arm, we're gonna provide, you know, how does that work?
For Narcan or the opioid antagonist, same thing. It would be an emergency response. And so this would allow us in an emergency situation be able to administer it because it would be a life-saving piece. And right now, they say anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes. It's that crucial.
Any other questions or comments?
Principals, what do you, what do you?
Well,
I'll have Mr. Womble, being our high school administrator, do you mind approaching the mic and sharing your feedback about what you think of this policy?
You just want to know what I feel, how I feel about having it on campus and it being readily available. Yeah, I think it's great. I think just being able to have it there. I mean, we're seeing more and more of it. I would like to say that, you know, it's not being used, but to have it available will be a great asset for us.
Any reservation?
No, just to make sure the training's right on it. We can get that and have some people that are trained in different parts of the building just in case. I think that's the best solution for us.
Thank you, Mr. Womble.
If there are no other questions, I'm open to a motion to approve to amend policy FFAC, local Narcan edition as presented. Motion by Anita, second by Marilyn. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed, do the same. Motion carries 6-0 with one absent. At this time, as determined by the Board of Trustees, there may be a closed session pursuant to Texas Opens Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.001, to discuss items relating to personnel, including but not limited to board superintendent goals. Texas Government Code, Section 551.074. Any action will be taken in open session. We will exit open session at 9:58 p.m. Was it to approve that purchasing approval presented to us? So this is giving us the information, and this is approving. If I'm, yeah, that's the step, purchasing approval review she talked about, the cost and this and that. Right, and then this should be, yeah, purchasing approval.
Hey, man. All right then, good thing, man.
And that's just approving it, approving that finance. Excuse me. Yeah, it's the same thing. Right. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure I'm.
Yeah.